you're tossing dice, flipping pages, stroking that punch, or mashing them buttons, we got your 6 on all things gaming. And while we have your attention right now, do not forget to hit that bell button right there in our subscribe section, so that way you can get informed of all the times that we put everything up there, all our content. You'll get a nice little notification. It pops up. Eddie is very diligent about getting these up by midnight. As a matter of fact, it hit me last night too. Like, if you don't have your phone off, it'll wake you up, people. It's the way to go.
Waiting up like gamers at GameStop, waiting for that release. That's what we do with Basement Quest.
Yep, it releases at midnight. And speaking of Basement Quest, I am
without any of the expensive special editions.
Exactly, or the DLC content that you have to pay for later, and you don't want. I am Loki, Michael Smith. This, to my right side,
Eddie Jakes.
And we are Basement Quest, as always, bringing you the hottest, funnest, greatest things of gaming. And today we have something special for you. We talked about it last week that we're going to start bringing out these guides, and we're going to include both of our systems that we like to use. The Wizards of the Coast, D&D 5th edition, and Palladium, the fantasy.
Yeah, it's technically a second edition.
Second edition at this point.
Because there was one edition before it, in which I played briefly, and it was before they actually got into SDC. It was strictly a hit point system.
I remember that.
But yeah, now it's...
And it just kind of felt weird because Palladium's always been about an SDC system.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So that came much later.
Yeah, to kind of pull that out and then not have that be equivalent of it, and you're used to it. Especially like we've already talked about with
because we jumped TMNT, in with Robotech and TMNT.
And they already had all that stuff, and then you go into this and there is no sign of it. And you're like,
well, we start with Mega Damage,
yes.
if you think about it, because the Veritechs were Mega Damage.
That's true.
So
that's true.
We touch on it a little bit. But we're here, second edition Palladium, where we're going to discuss the different character classes. We'll start at the basics. Like today we're doing fighters.
Yes.
Or as Palladium calls them, men of arms.
Right.
Because there's different ones. And with Wizards of the Coast, there's different specialties, I think.
And we're going to break it down. Now, keep in mind, this is our opinion. This is our thoughts on our process. And this is more aimed towards people that, say, have never used the fighter or are thinking about actually going to use a fighter from another class. We're not telling you how to equip this fighter. We're not telling you how to go about it. What we're telling you is the differences between the 5th edition and 2nd edition Palladium and how we feel would be the better route to go, including all the abilities, the feats, and stuff like that.
To bring you up to date, you should watch our first episode, which was the big debate, Palladium versus D&D.
A great one, too. We still have people commenting on that.
So pause right now, watch that, come back, here we go.
Now you're done. Now you're with us. Here we go.
Now we're going to actually go class by class, and we're not debating really. We're going to talk about strengths, weaknesses, and how we like to play.
Right.
And some of our players use these characters because I think we got one of the most diverse gaming groups as far as character classes.
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
Great. So
character classes, races, everything. I mean, it's a great group, and and if you guys don't have that, I suggest it. Diversify your group. Go out of your comfort zone. If you always use the mage, go out of your comfort zone and pick up a fighter for once, or a thief.
Play a gnome.
Yeah, there you go. Somebody, if you're
used to
being these big things, try something different, man. It always makes it fun, and you never know. You might just get a new character that you love so much that you never want it to end, and it becomes your new favorite character. It's just how things work out sometimes. So the fighter, as we all know, or the man-at-arms, is pretty much your front runner. He's the man that stands on the line. And the one thing that I got to say that I love about the 5th edition D&D is they actually diversified the fighter so well now that it's pretty much one of the more powerful classes. Number one, you have more ability score bonuses than any other class out there. Number two, you have more abilities or more access to feats and stuff like that, making you also a more efficient fighter out there. The biggest thing I like about 5th edition is you're just not a sword and board guy anymore. You can be, and you can do this on the fly.
You can be that if you want.
Right, and you can do this, but the best part is you can do this on the fly. Because of all the weapon proficiencies and everything that's granted to you with all these feats and everything else, you can literally be a sword and board 1 minute, and then the next fight, pull out your two-handed sword or something like that because you'll have the proficiencies in it. Or if your ranger just isn't stacking up to count, and you threw a couple things into your bow, now all of a sudden you're Aragorn freaking throwing things out from a distance. So the fighter class has really jumped up a lot from what it used to be. It used to be just like we said.
It used to be a starter character.
Bingo. Sword and board, you'd be on the front line, hack, poke, block, hack, poke. No, it's beyond that now. Palladium?
So Palladium. So unlike with Dungeons and Dragons, where you pick like a fighter class and you have your different specialties, Palladium breaks them down completely by occupational character class. So, for example, one of the first men at arms in the book is mercenary warrior. Okay, so obviously, clearly by the title, you're a mercenary. You're a sword for hire. Great, fantastic. It's a lot more raw than a more refined fighter, but you have a lot more opportunities for you to earn money and treasure that way, because obviously everything you do is going to be for a paycheck. So,
and D&D also has their what they call archetypes.
Right.
And our archetype, much to that one, would be the champion.
Yes, exactly. So, this character class, among all of them, has like I think I'd have to do a little more research, but I think it has the least available skill set, because you're basically it's obviously mostly combat centric, so there's very few scholastic skills available. But you start with like 200 gold, and you just have a small shield, dagger, or whatever, and then obviously you can work up to get more when you start level 1. But right off the rip, I mean, you might be former militia, you might be former Royal Guard, and you just decided that working for the man just isn't for you, and now you're working for yourself, and that's basically the gist of it. And then,
so why don't you break down the features that you guys have? For example, D&D, the 5th edition. One of the biggest things, obviously, you have your class features. Number 1, we have D10 hit points. That's standard for all martial characters at that point. Our saves, strength saves, are fairly rare, but Constitution saves are common and very problematic with the fighter class. Fighting style, one of the fighter's more iconic abilities. Obviously, there's a reason to multi-class in Fighterhead. Archery, we talked about that earlier, the ability to be able to do that. Defense, not very exciting, but I'll tell you what, if you don't have a paladin out there and you need to up your defense, the fighter gives you that ability. The dueling, this works while, obviously you got to drop a shield, but you get 2 close combat weapons, and you can do that. Great weapon fighting, which we talked about, 2-handed weapons. Protection, same thing. This is more of a defender. You can be a fighter and not necessarily a damage dealer. You can be a fighter and a protector, sort of say. So you have your ranger over here, and you want to protect him, so you stand in front of him. Now you're doing your sword damage, but because you're more of a shield and a defender, you're supporting your role more, so you're relying on your heavy hitters to do that damage for you. 2-weapon fighting, which we obviously talked about. One of the biggest things that a fighter has in D&D now, 5th edition, is their second wind. And I'll tell you what, it's a pain in the ass as a DM, because I have 2 fighters on our team right now, and they do this a lot, the second wind. It's a bit of healing that can be very helpful. What it is as soon as you get dropped down, you can pretty much just get right back up with a set amount of hit points. You have an action surge, which no other class has the action surge ability, and that grants you the extra attack. And Ed will tell you, especially now when we're getting up in higher levels and we have these 2 fighters, these guys literally can be taking about 5 to 6 whacks, depending on how well they do. The extra attack, fighters get more attacks than anybody outside of the monk, and we'll get to the monk later on down the line. But if you want somebody that can hit a lot and have a lot of options, this is where you want to go. And the last but not least, the fighter is indomitable. It's fantastic. Saves will always save you. In other words, you'll always have a chance. Plus, you have the ability to re-roll these saves later on. I think it's like level 3 you get to so you get these bonuses really early. And a fighter, like I said, is beyond what it used to be. There's so much more, and there's so many more options that you can do now. We'll break down the subclasses or the martial archetypes right after we hear the Palladiums.
All right, so every character class starts with minimum armor. Usually you get a choice of what you can do. So, for example, the mercenary can have a suit of chainmail, which basically all humans have an armor rating of 4. That's why anything roll 4 or under is a fail. So you start with a suit of chainmail, which gives you an AR of 14, has an SDC of 44. So the armor itself has a certain number of hits before it breaks. And then you're doing damage to the person itself. If you decide you want studded leather, it's got an AR 13, 38 SDC, but there's certain less speed restrictions, obviously wearing studded leather over a chainmail. Moving along, the some of the special abilities you get. Like with a soldier OCC, for example, obviously you're military trained, so you're a little more refined. Your armor's of a higher quality.
So Palladium, D&D. You have your basics, you have your standards. Like as soon as you pick a fighter, you know you're getting more attacks. You know you're getting better defense. You know you're getting the second wind. But if you take these archetypes, you get the bonuses included. With Palladium, there is no, hey, here's the fighter and here's the starting bonuses of the fighter. This is, you are a man-at-arms, and then from that class, you get specific bonuses. Right.
Right. One of the most...
And that's the biggest difference between Palladium and Wizards of the Coast is with the fighter of the Wizard of the Coast, you have a basic skill package. And then from there, your archetypes enhance.
And you have minimum requirements. So on your attributes, you need to reach certain attributes to be certain characters.
And so that was the other big thing about 5th edition. Like I said, you have ability schools, like bonuses, big time. Like, big time. And I don't know how Palladium does that in Corporation, but it almost kind of like coaxes you to coming on to being that, that fighter. It's like, hey, come to the fighter side. We have lots of attacks.
Well, with Palladium, it all comes down to level and comes down to your fighting style.
Right.
So your combat, your hand-to-hand.
Right.
So your hand-to-hand basic, your bonuses as you go up are obviously going to be lesser than if you were hand-to-hand expert, or I think they're hand-to-hand assassin. So there'll be a lot of difference. Like I think with hand-to-hand assassin, you can actually get a death blow. Eventually, get death blow at like an 18.
I do remember that.
Yeah. So, and one of the really cool things I've always liked about Palladium is they do have Ranger, that is a man of arms. Mm-hmm. However, they have a class called Longbowman, which is superior, bowmanship.
Right.
So for example, Legolas could be a Longbowman.
Right. Let's break down the Longbowman, because I have in one of my martial archetypes the Arcane Archer. Mm-hmm. So let's compare these two archetypes. Yep. And so the first thing with the D&D, obviously the Arcane archetype, it's the concept of the original. You remember the original D&D cartoon where you make those arrows just appear out of nowhere? This is the same idea.
Yeah.
So he's skill and proficient in one of two excellent cantrips, which cantrips always, you don't have to waste any time on. These aren't like learned spells. They constantly go off. Arcane Shot, powerful and versatile ability. You get to use 2 uses between short rests, and you get an ever-ready shot at level 15. Now, obviously, level 15 comes on later. But the idea of these are you have these trick shots. Banishing Arrow, take the target out of combat for 1 round. Beguiling Arrow prevents the target attacking one of your allies for 1 round. Bursting Arrow, obviously it explodes. Bursting. Enfeebling, you bring down their constitution. It makes it easier to hit them. The Grasping Arrow, it's like tentacles coming up from the ground trying to grab you. Piercing Arrow, obviously pierces armor, does more damage. Shadow Ammo, excellent way of incapacitating ammos who are outside of your reach, ranged or spells. Seeking Arrow, I like this one. Ignoring cover, such as, the nice thing that guy's sitting behind there. You can literally shoot this arrow out and it'll go find homeboy. Magic Arrow, we all know about those, always hits. Curve Shot, so if you miss your first shot, you can redirect it and the shot will actually come back again. Ever Ready Shot, now you can afford to use your signature ability on every encounter, and of course your signature ability is the Improved Shot, and that's you get to deal 1d6 or 2d6 more damage depending on the ability that you use and target.
The thing with the Longbowman, so there's like some inherited magical.
Oh yeah. This is like an
Archer.
arcane, right.
With the Longbowman, it isn't necessarily the case. However, as a Longbowman, obviously you get, like I said, you get superior bowmanship. That gives you a rate of fire with the longbow that goes up at almost like every level. So you start with 2 shots, then you get another one at 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. So you potentially could be up to, looks like 16, 17 shots.
Wow.
With a longbow. You get a special, you get superior range with a longbow. So having weapon proficiency longbow will give you a certain range. The longbowman gets 700 feet plus 25 feet per level of experience. Okay. So also, and this is a cool thing that looking at some of these OCCs in general, they'll give you some information about how other character classes are affected. So the longbowman is technically the only class that can fire a bow from a moving horse. So yeah, any other character that's trying to shoot a bow, crossbow, or bow of terrible quality from a moving horse will actually get their pluses halved.
Right.
Whereas a long bowman, it's like Legolas.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
from Lord of the Rings, he's just pew pew pew. That's basically what he is. He's a long bowman. However, and this is neat too. And this is one thing I like about Palladium because certain classes have pluses and minuses. There is a minus that if a long bowman picks up somebody's shitty bow, their bonuses get cut in half. So if, let's say they escape from being captured, whatever, and it's like, oh, there's a little crossbow here. It's not as simple as you picking up that crossbow and you're John Wick.
Right.
You're John Wick in the fantasy world.
Right,
No, your skill level is going to be diminished because as a long bowman, you've been groomed to use the best, shoot the best, and anybody who's ever practiced a musical instrument or anything like that that's shitty, it affects you.
Right.
So, so that's really cool. And like I said, they do have a ranger in here, but the ranger isn't so much like groomed in this game to be like an archer, unless you want it to be. It's more of a hunter and tracker, kind of class. And I mean, that's basically long and short of it. The bonuses of these characters are more physical. There's not much magic, unless you could score magical items.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know, definitely.
And that's something else we'll get into later on. But no, this is just your basic guide of what to look forward to and to help you with some of these subclasses or these OCCs, and with us, these
especially
archetypes.
If you're coming from one game to another.
So I see you have Knight right there. So let me go ahead let me go to what we have closest to the Knight, because actually I should have done another. Arcane and Longbow kind of worked out pretty good. We have a Cavalier. Now, if you can convince your DM to give you a horse to follow you wherever you want to go, Cavalier is the way to go, my friend.
Yes.
If you just want to amply stare down your enemy, the Cavalier has some of the most incredible advantage tactics and disadvantage tactics out there. You want a fighter that's going to stand on the front line, the Cavalier is going to do it for you. Let me tell you what. The Cavalier has incredible charge. They can hold the line. They're valiant. There's a lot of different things they can do, but also keep in mind, you're on a fucking horse, right? You're on a goddamn horse. So there's only so much you could do in horses. Don't plan on going on a whole lot of dungeon scrawls, because it's going to be rough for you. But if you do decide to go that,
the knight wasn't really meant for dungeon crawls. If you really look at him, he's a noble warrior. He's supposed to defend the kingdom.
Exactly. Bonus proficiency, free skills. So you get a free skill or language. Added on to what we said already before, as a fighter, you already get skills just for picking the fighter. Now you pick this subclass, and you're getting even more. Born in the saddle. It's difficult to know how often you need to make a savings throw in the saddle. Arguably, if you are able to save, you're able to make multiple saves. So essentially, it's really difficult to pull you off of this horse. It's very hard. You have multiple saves to constantly keep you on that horse. Unwavering mark. It's pretty much a taunt mechanic. It makes it difficult for your foes to attack your allies. They have to come at you. It's essentially a provoke from like your Final Fantasy games and WoW and shit like that. Warding maneuver, similar to the protection styles. What this does is it requires you to take your reaction to force their reaction. Once again, it makes the enemy come after you. The Cavalier is probably the biggest tank class that they have out there. If you want somebody who's going to stand on obviously, hold the line. Considerably better than the first feat, and it pretty much you're allowed to use your wards, your protecting styles. Even gets better if you extend it past that 5 feet. Obviously, the higher up you go in levels, the more you're going to do. He's a ferocious charger. First, your mount counts as moving, so you don't have to do your own movement. Second, your mount can dash or disengage and put distance between you and the enemy like that. So you're a very good hit and run specialist as well. Vigilant Defender. This is the last thing that they have for their final ability. And this pretty much solves the whole defender problem that you have. If you really want to have that hold the line guy, if you need that defender, you go with this Vigilant Defender. The Cavalier, like I said, is one of the most tanky classes or archetypes out there. You want somebody who's going to stand. You want somebody who's going to stare down your enemy and not fucking move. This is what you go with.
Okay, so I love the Knight. I've never played one personally, but the Knight's got some interesting things. So first of all, like you talked, the way of the horse. They are probably the best horsemen in the game.
Absolutely.
They're able to like do all the jumps, tricks, anything to get out of a fight, get into a fight, get away. They're the best class for that.
Yeah.
The Way of the Lance. Now, this is badass. So, I don't think it's really touched on a lot in a lot of these games, but knights are superior with the lance. I mean, they're
supposed to be.
They charge each other. They do competitions.
I was going to say the biggest competitions they do are the lance, I freaking forget the hell they're called. Joustings. Thank you. Joustings.
So the knight in Palladium. So, like I said, they have the Way of the Lance. So if they strike with a natural 20, completely unmodified, this is like one of the only times in the game where this actually happens. The lance strike inflicts triple damage instead of double, and the opponent is completely unseated from his horse.
Knocked completely off.
Not completely off, if not dead. That's triple damage.
Yeah. Okay,
so you would roll whatever 1d6 damage is the lance, so you triple that. So you got 18 points of damage. If you got a level 1 character, you could kill.
That's not even if it's a magic or if you have strength bonuses or everything else added onto that.
That's before all of that. Yep.
Yeah.
So all that's there. They got more pluses to initiative. They're much better at rolling with punches and stuff like that, mostly because they're in
Martial
heavy armor.
Fighters. Yep.
Yeah, they're in heavy armor, so dodging's not really a thing. One of the cool thing about knights in the Palladium system is where you come from is important.
Yes.
So if you're from nobility, whether or not you're just from a respected family, new nobility, so if you're like a new kingdom and you're a new knight, or if you're a peasant, like your background is actually very important because knights were very educated people.
Yes.
We're talking the creme de la creme of warrior class.
Exactly.
Obviously, very militaristic. Mostly,
like you mentioned earlier, they're out there to defend the castle.
Exactly.
They're for kingdom and glory.
Typically of good alignments with obviously some, outliers. Obviously, the kingdom could be evil.
Yeah, absolutely. Willow. What's his name?
Exactly.
General Krug, right? Craig? No.
Kale.
Yes.
I love that. I had a character with that mask.
Dude, that mask was badass, dude. But he was in all intents and purposes a fighter. He was a general. He was battle master.
He was. Now, of course, being a knight, there is a certain code of ethics.
Yep.
And
this is what a lot of people get turned off from being a paladin, from being a knight, from being a cavalier. You do have to follow by code of ethics.
Because as
a DM,
as game masters and stuff, you need to penalize characters for not playing their character.
Exactly.
And to the point where, you could even say, bro, you should really consider it a new character class.
Yeah, really think about this. You're not playing it out. You're playing not at night.
If you're breaking into people's houses and stealing the silverware, you're not playing a knight right now.
You're a fighter thief.
So the code of chivalry, I won't list off everything, but to live one's life so that is worthy of respect and honor by all, fair play, nobility, valor, honor, courtesy, loyalty. That's basically it. Just those 7 code of chivalry. There's just 7. You have to play that in character.
Yeah.
Or you're not going to get the XP you want, or you could even be penalized.
So you have looks like you have Paladin next, which is weird.
Yes.
Because Paladin is usually its own.
It's its own class
right.
in Dungeons and Dragons and Palladium. It's part of the Men of Arms.
And it's weird because, like I said, I will be breaking down Paladin eventually, and even Paladin has like 7 archetypes that you can go from. So just to see one Paladin on here, it's kind of like, I think that might be the downside of Palladium right there. You have an ability
maybe
to make.
It's probably the only Men of Arms class that could be considered magical or at least spiritual. Obviously, it's a religious order.
So I'll go with I'll take Champion because Champion is a very it's simple and effective. If you want to Champion, pretty much you improve critical hits. You have higher rates to heal themselves later on in life or in levels, and you constantly can free up half your hit points and put it towards damage modifications. So as a champion, you have a really good chance of doing a lot of damage and hitting a lot of times. So it's a different type of skill set. So critical hits are huge in D&D. We all know this. We all love it. And this doubles your chance of getting one. And not only that, this is one of their first abilities. So the more levels you go up, the more chances you have of this quote-unquote improved critical hit. At a higher level, you have a chance of actually almost getting a critical hit every 5 shots. Now, it's not a big... you're talking 10%. You know what I'm saying? 10% critical hit. So it's not always on your favor. However, when it does hit, you have that chance of actually getting that critical hit, and that starts early. That starts early in your level. The remarkable athlete, have proficiency in acrobatics, athletics, sleight of hand, stealth, initiative rolls, and several other ability checks deciding on what you chose for your character. That's half of it. That means instantly you're passing almost every modification that your DM's trying to throw at you. He's like, oh, you want to try to do that backflip over that guy? Boom, this is the number. You take that number by half, and now you roll it. So he's saying a DC of 25, now it's a 13. That's pretty fucking impressive. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Additional fighting style. Most builds only have the one thing, you can do. The champion has multiples. Superior critical. This is a huge critical chance, especially with as many attacks as a fighter can have. So once again, you're improving now. If you go this route, you're improving the basic critical to a superior critical. So now it's jumping it from 10% to almost 20% every time you're trying to do it. Not bad. And last but not least, survivor. Constant healing makes second wind largely obsolete, and you can keep your fighter almost indefinitely on the battlefield. So he, unlike all the other fighter classes, they have their own with second wind, like we said, it comes back. You've seen it happen many a times where these guys have, I'm using second wind. Fuck you, bastard. But it's helpful. Now, this guy not only gets a second wind, he gets an improved second wind, and then something else on top of that. Talk about being able to stay in battle. The champion, if you want somebody that has the ability to hit a lot of criticals, has the ability to stay on that battlefield for you, and also has the ability to change up any way it wants, the champion is the way you want to go. And looking at the time, it looks like we are going to have to take a quick minute. And
quick minute from our sponsor.
For our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Oh yeah.
And you're gonna break down the paladin.
All right. Yeah, we're gonna take a look at a paladin. Paladin is also considered a man at arms.
Yeah. So we're actually now just noticing that this guide, albeit when I do a paladin guide, it's going to be pretty much strictly a 5th edition paladin guide, because the paladin, as you can see, is right here. I think the wizard and
there's some priest OCCs and stuff I guess can touch on. They consider them under like men of magic.
I was going to say the priest is more like the cleric,
some of these aren't going to match up perfectly. So Palladium considers anyone who uses weaponry a man at arms.
Man at arms. Right.
So even though the paladin, obviously in 5th edition, has been its own class for so long,
it has been absolutely.
So Palladium, it's still its own occupational character class. Like obviously you're just a paladin, but they consider them men at arms classes.
Right.
So probably if that wasn't made clear. But the Paladin's an interesting character in the sense that even though it doesn't use magic per se, obviously it's a religious group and they do have some, they're very in tune with their gods and so forth, and they're religious warriors.
Like we brought up with the knight, if you can't follow vigilant and valiancy, don't pick the Paladin. No. We have had many player characters throughout the years choose the Paladin race and then absolutely destroy the name of Paladin. Believe me.
Yeah, there's some similarities between the Paladin and the Knight in the sense that obviously they're good with a lance and they're good with a horse. I believe the Paladin differs in the sense that I think the Paladin can do this all with full plate armor, where I don't think the Knight can. Let me just double check that before I'm giving you folks bad information. Oh no, they can do it with full plate armor. Okay. But the Paladin is unique that they can disarm a lance.
Right.
So, because they do know the way of the lance. So everything that a knight can do, the Paladin can do with the difference of instead of a natural 20 to inflict triple damage, they only need a 19. Okay. So a 19 and 20, the Paladin can inflict triple damage with a lance if you decide to use a lance. And the same thing, disarm and unseat opponents from the horse. The Paladin is unique in that they're one of the only classes that can channel their inner spirit, and they can deal a death blow to a demon. Okay, because obviously demons are evil, in the sense they are the anti-Paladin, for lack of a better term. So the Paladin can actually deal a death blow to a demon, whereas the other character classes would either have to wear it down or use a magical object or whatever. The Paladin is built essentially to slay demons.
Right.
That's one of their main goals. And like the knight, the family background is very important because these are
they're
knights.
holy knights.
They're
knights.
knights. Yeah, they're knights elevated to the next step, and they're religious leaders per se. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they're basically a priest with a sword.
Yeah.
You know, and aside from that, there's very little difference between the paladin and the knight. They do have a couple limitations. You have to be pure. So there is no. If you're in a situation where you have to decide if you have to do something shady or not, you have to choose the unshadiness, no matter what.
Right.
Because anything that goes against your code of ethics is you're going to lose experience. You're going to be penalized by the game master, or even asked to play a different character class.
Yes,
You obviously
which I would do. At that point, as a DM, I'm telling you, hey, look, this ain't happening.
And this can, and here's the thing, and this could make for a better game, or it could make it frustrating. So if you have a character who's a thief, and you have a character who's we'll say selfish thief, and you got a character who's a paladin, and you have somebody with information, the thief's like, let me just torture him, I'll get the information.
Yeah.
The paladin would not allow that to happen.
He's either going to have to get pulled away from the room, and not
which they're not going to let you do.
Right, exactly.
They're just not going to let you do. Like, no, I'm not letting you torture this man.
Right.
And if you do this in front of the paladin as that player character, you are obligated to fight with your teammate.
Yeah.
At that point.
I agree.
And which, like I said, could make for a better game, could make for an annoying game,
Make it
but
fun.
at least you're playing the character pure.
Exactly.
Of course, you also have that whole thing of why would a paladin hang out with a thief in the first place? So that's where it's on the game master or the dungeon master
to come up with
a reason why you are with this group of refuse.
Yeah, exactly. This deplorable.
So, like, if you got a bunch of thieves and there's one guy playing a paladin, for one, look him in the eye and be like, are you serious? And two, you're just going to have to come up with a creative way that they get thrown together. Matter of fact, the game I'm playing, the Pathfinder computer game, one of the characters is a paladin, and they play that up like, why am I with these people?
Right, exactly.
It's like, it's pretty cool.
And that's the best way to do it, though, because then you really take it in. So one of the other archetypes that we have here that it's a lot better than what I brought up before, the champion. It's called the Battle Master. This guy is just the be-all, end-all of combat. Combat superiority is beyond his.
This would be compared to the mercenary too,
right,
I think.
Exactly. You get 4 superiority dice, which means you get 4 maneuver abilities between each short and long rest. Now, maneuvers are anywhere between. So here's your maneuvers. Disarming attack. You can obviously disarm an attack. Distracting strike. Very helpful with a rogue or any other striking and partying. So if you have a rogue or an archer that's sitting there just picking your people off, you can distract this guy with a strike and get him focused on you, which, once again, as a fighter, that's what you want. You don't want him picking off your rogues. You don't want him picking off your rangers and your mages, Evasive footwork. This gives you a huge bonus to your AC. Feigning attack, obviously, if you get an advantage on the next attack that they give you, so you grant them disadvantage, which means they have to roll 2 dice, and they take the lowest. That's huge. Goading attack. It's D&D for a while. The 4th edition and 3rd edition had a lot of these what we used to call provoke attacks. And as a fighter, you'd shout out, and it was like a taunt. And what it does is it
they're trying to tank.
Right,
they're trying to make it easier to tank.
So you bring that enemy, the big enemy, over to you. So that way it makes it more manageable. He's not going around beating the crap out of everybody else. So this is essentially, once again, goading attack is if you strike them, you get their attention, and they can't disengage from you. They have to be on you from this point on. Lunging attack, you just get to move closer to your target without wasting movement. And that's huge because sometimes if you find yourself out of position, this guy can get back in a position like that.
Just not to cut you off completely, but that was one criticism I always had with those attacks because it made no sense for me, some of the lesser classes being able to provoke, because the idea of a tank is you can take hits while your damage dealers are following up, and then you have your healer.
Exactly.
But if your healer is tied up keeping the quote-unquote tank from dying, your damage dealers are being neglected.
Right.
So I don't know. I just didn't like. I like the concept. I didn't like the way it was executed.
Right. Exactly. Maneuvering attacks, same thing. It's easy to get a flanking result on this, so you can literally go around your enemy without causing advantage attacks on you. meaning they don't get a free strike, and you're allowed to maneuver yourself around the enemy to get yourself into advantage, which, once again, 2 dice instead of 1, take the best, always a better way to go. Menacing attack, frightening the target, makes them run away or even lose an attack for that next round. Parry. Now, keep in mind, these are all things that you can call that you can do, and you can do 4 times in between rests, and it gets more and more as this is just starting off. Later on, you can do like up to 8 of these, 9 of these, 10 of these. Parry, obviously, it's reducing attack, and so if you call parry and you get hit, then it reduces the damage. Precision attack. This is like a if you're trying to go after somebody that has a high AC and you just can't hit them, essentially you can take a precision attack and it grants you the advantages on it and gives you the bonuses. Pushing attack, same thing. You can push somebody away from you. Rally cry, this is nice. This lets your people kind of like stand up if they're like down and out. You get one of your allies. You can grant them 1 advantage attack, which, like I said, 2 dice. Take the best one, man. Reposit, spend a superiority die for an attack as a reaction. So there you go. You can take one of them dice and give yourself a free attack. And like we said before, fighters in 5th edition, you already got so many attacks at your disposal already. Now you're just giving yourself a little bit more. And last but not least, the trip attack. You can knock your opponent prone, and it gives you advantage to them, but also sets up the advantage for your other allies as well. So this guy is he's a student of war. Artisan tools probably won't matter too much in this game. Know your enemy. This is pretty cool. So what he does is before you fight, you can study your enemy and you can learn your enemy's weaknesses before you even engage him, so you can utilize that to your advantage. Improve combat superiority. This is pretty much this class allows you to proficient in multiple weapons, and therefore you're giving up your skills of, say, being acrobatic, but you're becoming a better swordsman. So you can do like two-handed. You can do sword and board. You can do bow. You can do spear. You can do all these other things, while the rest of the fighters can maybe only have about 3 of these options. The Battle Master can have up to about 6 proficiencies and just be constantly changing up his style like that.
Well, I only have a couple more classes here, which you probably don't, since obviously Palladium does a little differently. They consider the Thief, an occupational character class under Man-at-Arms.
I have the Eldritch Knight, which I know you're going to be interested in.
Oh, yeah.
The Purple Dragon Knight, and the Samurai.
Ooh.
Yeah, Samurai is pretty cool.
So, basically, the long and short of it is, the Thief is what you would expect. It's your typical run-of-the-mill Thief. Mm-hmm. Its strengths are obviously in its stealth, but, and there's a lot of detail in this. One of the biggest strengths in the Thief is there is this guild, this universal guild.
I like how they do this, by the way.
Yeah.
You really, in D&D, you have to form the guild, you have to get everything going. But with this, it's like, it's defined for you. It's set up for you. And it makes it so easy to really enjoy this.
And once, it's cool, too, because if you're kicked out from the guild, you'll have trouble entering the guild in other towns and stuff. So you can work that into your storyline. But otherwise, as long as you're a good thief, we use that term loosely.
Yes.
There's a lot of bonuses to it. Obviously, you get let's say you sold a necklace for 100 gold pieces. Being in the guild gets you an extra 25% on top of that. So obviously, you get 125 gold pieces for it. That's really cool. You'll get half of market value for rare items. So if
you're looking for something,
right,
purchase it half off. Right.
Right, exactly.
It's like being connected to the black market.
It's beautiful, and they have all the rules for it. They also show you basic fees you would get paid, as little as like 30 to 100 gold for just beating up someone. Like, dude, I need to beat this guy up. Boom, 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 100 gold pieces, all the way to murdering the king for 10,000 gold pieces. So it's really cool. It also, obviously, they're restricted to the types of armor because you want freedom of movement.
Absolutely.
The thief's weaknesses, obviously, it's not necessarily a brawler.
Yeah, you can't be up front with people.
No, it's not a brawler.
Many times before.
Poisons, knives, daggers,
attacks,
small swords, things like
stealth.
that. You really got to know how to play the thief.
Yes.
Which I'll just roll into the next one because this is one of the best. They're kind of very similar, except for who they work for. So the assassin OCC. Basically, the assassin is very much like a mercenary fighter, much like a thief, in the sense that they are a sword for hire. The only difference with the assassin is the assassin typically only work for nobility because they command like a higher price tag. And so typically they're used to win wars without going to war, usually. So the higher the assassin, you need to go kill this king, kill that person. That's where obviously the fee for killing a king and all that comes in.
Right.
They are obviously the most stealthy of the character classes because their whole purpose is to go in and out. Yeah, nobody knows who they are.
They're the masters of death.
The Jackal. If you ever seen that movie, The Jackal, they're basically Bruce Willis. They are not. Again, they're not. They can do full plate, obviously with some restrictions. If they need to do a lot of stealth and sneaking around, they're going to wear lighter armor.
Obviously, yeah.
So,
but they can also put on the armor and stand on the front line if they have to.
Which, again, as game masters, is very, very important. If you have a character that plays an assassin, if he's with the group and he's fighting and he's wearing plate, and then says, "Oh, in the middle of the night, I sneak in and slit his throat," I'm like, "You going to change your clothes?"
Yeah, exactly.
Because in full plate, you're not going to sneak around. I don't care what your skill is.
No.
It's not going to happen. So it's very important that you tell them you need to put on some light armor. Keep in mind, if you get into some trouble, if you're failing your rolls and they catch you, you're now fighting in light armor.
Right.
So very, very important if we're playing it out. Otherwise, they can use it without fighting restrictions in an upfront, brawl or anything like that. There is an Assassin's Guild, which has similar rules to the Thieves Guild. So being part of the guild gets you the same kind of bonuses. The fees are standardized. They can climb walls. They get pluses to climbing walls, detecting traps. Everything you would really, really expect. Typically, they use smaller weapons like daggers or smaller swords and everything.
Concealed.
Yeah, so they're definitely not going to be using like long bows or anything like that. The idea is to be able to move in and out without being detected, do your job, collect your money, have a nice day. An assassin can never, ever, ever be a principled alignment. They're always in what's considered a selfish or evil alignment.
They have to be.
Yeah, they have no regard for life.
Yeah, I was going to say you can't be a good or neutral character and have zero regard for life like they do.
Yeah, so they have no regard for life whatsoever. Best way to sum it up is in Terminator 2 when John Connor says you can't go around killing people, and the Terminator says why? That is the assassin.
Why?
Exactly. So, really interesting character and some great art on there.
That is, I remember Rob saying, "Can I just
he wants that armor.
I just want to be that guy.
I just want that. Can I have that?" Yeah.
So, I just found out, and it's funny because in 4th edition, Ed actually played a sword mage, and he liked that character a lot. It was he had fun with it, and they never kind of really brought that back until now, sort of.
But wait, there's more.
They have this thing called the Eldritch Knight. And it's a fantastic combination of combat prowess and, yes, you guessed it, magic. The problem is they won't really compete in terms of a real wizard, and they don't exactly do the full damage of, like, say, the fighter. But it's a beautiful combination of both, and if you're smart about it, and you use these tricks of theirs very nicely,
it was a decent damage dealer, though.
Yes, no, exactly.
So if you got the actual, because you powered your weapons, and if you could get the hits in, there was some decent damage and after effects.
Right. So one of the biggest things, obviously, that you have that no other fighter, that all these other, martial classes don't have, spellcasting. You can use spells. Oh my goodness. Spellcasting is what actually defines you as the Eldritch Knight. You're limited almost entirely to abjuration and evocation. Oh my god, I can't say that. Spells, but those offer plenty of options when it comes to work for the fighter. Such as your bonuses, such as your negatives, take away advantages, fireball, grasping grasp, or shocking grasp. Grasping grasp.
Write that down.
Grasping grasp.
I want that
there's
spell.
There's also a whole other thing set up for war magic. So you have the ability to cast spells. Magical bond. This is awesome. You have a magical bond with your weapon. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a weapon later on. It can literally be from your hands as you gain levels. So you're talking at level 5, you can imbue your one sword with fire, and then you can literally have lightning coming from your hands, from your gauntlet, because that is your weapon right there. So it's situational, and it depends on what weapon you have in your hand and what you want to do at the time.
And correct me if I'm wrong, too. These were all like, I think they were evocations, right? You
Yes.
didn't need ingredients?
Yes.
If I remember. Yeah,
Yes.
that was because that's always been my turnoff with Wizard of the Coast Magic is this collecting of ingredients, and when they used to memorize
Try to
everything.
make it real. You know, they've always kind of, even Wizard of the Coast, back when they were TSR, they had that. You had to write the spells down, then you had to, like, waste certain things. And during your off time, you had to go get, right, and you had to go get your ingredients and shit like that. So it's been in here for a while. A lot of DMs are really into it. Some of them, not so much, you know. War Magic. With the addition of the new cantrip, Sword Coast Adventure Guide, the War Magic is better than ever. It actually includes Blooming Blade, Green Flame Blade, in conjunction with the extra attacks. The War Magic does a total damage and a lot more than a regular fighter. The difference is, like I said, you don't get the multiple attacks that a fighter gets, but the ability to imbue your weapons with this War Magic makes you that much more powerful. You can Eldritch Strike. Since your intelligence won't be as high as real wizards, DCs can be a real problem, and posing disadvantage will make your spells incredibly more effective. So essentially what this does is you do an Eldritch Strike, and you enfeeble that person that you attack. So now when you do your spell, they have a disadvantage. So now they have to roll 2 dice, take the lowest to protect you against that spell. Probably not going to be very good on their things. Arcane Charge. This is as much as a movement as a dash action. You combine it with an action surge, and you get as much as you would expect for that. So you get an extra turn, your bonus action, and then you can pretty much take this charge and do it. Take an extra attack, take that extra movement, do whatever you want from there. And then last but not least, you got your improved War Magic. You can drop a huge spell, stab, and shoot somebody. So how it's explained, imagine this. You take Fireball, right? And you're facing off against this one guy. So, boom, you hit him with your sword, and then, boom, you hit him with a Fireball right to his face. Boom, boom, just like that. With this class, or with this archetype, you're able to do that. Whereas a mage would just be doing spell. You can literally attack and then follow up with a magic missile, or attack and follow up with lightning, attack, follow up with a fireball. Pretty badass indeed. The Purple Dragon Knight, aka the Banneret. Back in 4th edition, we had this thing called a Warlord. The Warlord was probably one of the coolest classes. As a matter of fact, I made my NPC, the guy that helped you guys out, Xander.
Yes.
He was a warlord.
Yeah.
He was a warlord. What they did is they pretty much gave everybody around them, their allies, bonuses. So they'd have advantages, they'd have pluses, they'd have this, they'd have that. This is what this is. This purple dragon, this Banneret, is just that. He's essentially going to be this charismatic knight guy that gets your guys rallying going forward. Rally Cry. Doesn't do a ton of healing, but it's enough to get your allies, including unconscious clerics, back to their feet and into their fight. So essentially what it is, it's a second win for your whole party. So if you actually have, like, say, a cleric that's on the ground, he's down and out, you do this freaking this rallying cry, and you get everybody up. You get them up with hit points, and they're able to go that round. They're not downed. They're up. They're up on their feet. Royal Envoy. Persuasion of the king on social skills, double proficiencies is a very long way to go, especially if your charisma isn't great. So if you don't have a great charisma, you have what's known as the Royal Envoy. So you have a king backing you. You have this power behind you. So you need some play. You just tell the DM, hey, you got to use my Royal Enclave there, buddy, and the DM will make it happen for you.
Very similar with like the Paladin and the Knight, and you know, some of the nobility rules that they had. Good so call. Very, very similar.
I love this one. Inspiring Surge. Use this on a rogue if at all possible. Rogues can sneak attack once per turn, not once per round. So they can, in theory, sneak attack hundreds of times if enough people actually grant them enough free attacks. So think about that. You can literally tell your rogue, so once a round he can do a back attack. That's like times 4 damage. That's what you want your rogue to do.
So let's look at it. You get the right rolls, you're essentially going from enemy to enemy to enemy, and you could be slitting throats.
Yes.
Is essentially what he's saying.
Up to hundreds. I mean,
incredible.
If it's set up perfectly, yes, this guy can essentially make your rogue a walking man of death. And then Bulwark. Reroll, save rerolls, fantastic, especially with mental health and other things to try to take out your allies in a fight. So this allows you to let all your allies reroll on advantage saves.
Wow.
That's big right there. I mean, you're talking about, oh, you got a fail save? Hold on, buddy. Reroll that with 2 dice and take the best right now. That's so essentially this is their call for the warlord to come back. And it's a really, like I said, if you want to play that class, if you want to be that guy that boosts your guys up or gets that rally cry forward, this is the one for you. And last but not least, the samurai. And if you can take the samurai jokes, because you know the samurai jokes will be coming at you, buddy. You know the samurai jokes, the ninja jokes, the teenage every what's that? Usagi Yojimbo?
Usagi Yojimbo.
You're going to get called
the
Yojimbo.
mutant rabbit.
But if you can deal with all of that, you will have yourself one of the most proficient fighters out on the field.
It's so funny you bring that up because just like the other day, I was just like, I was on Wikipedia or something, and I'm looking up all the old books. And you remember the Oriental Adventures book?
Yes.
Like that book's like completely out of print. So like, I don't know if you still have a copy of that. You should definitely grab it. It was like a lot of.
I don't know where
there was
it
a
is.
lot of great stuff in that book.
There really was.
So
right.
yeah, bringing the samurai back. There was a lot more. And there was samurai and stuff like that.
The monk was in that one. Then they had
that's where the fighting monk, I think,
yes.
or the Shaolin type monk was in it. And,
exactly.
Dude, that was. I mean,
Ninja,
obviously,
they had all those. They had all.
Obviously, it was definitely just trying to get some of the because there's a samurai game. Was it Legend of Five Rings?
Yeah,
L5R. I think it was trying to get some of that crowd into the DND, and I thought it was a great book.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I thought it was a great detailed book. Certainly liked it better than Spelljammer. I thought that was silly. I mean, no disrespect to anybody that likes Spelljammer, but I didn't want my D&D in space kind of thing.
Yeah. So obviously, samurais rely a lot on two-handed weapons. That's one of their bigger things. So bonus proficiency, you get a free skill or language. That's pretty much every one of these. You get it free. As you can see, the fighter class, they just give you skills. They just give you skills and feat. Have fun with these. Fighting spirit. Essentially, what this does is you become it makes you pretty much a great weapon master, sharpshooter, becoming discreet and tempting. Temporary hit points overall, just making without a shield. However, essentially what you're doing with this is it requires bonus actions. So when you're using two-handed weapons, sometimes you have to use bonus actions to do that double attack. This takes it away. Elegant Courtier allows you to use wisdom in addition to charisma and persuasion. So if your charisma isn't so well, you can use your wisdom to kind of keep people going. Tireless Spirit. Pretty much you can come out swinging and do a shit ton of damage and not take any damage in attack. It's almost kind of like the opposite of the Rage Barbarian there. Rapid Strike. This thing is great. The Samurai actually gets more hits and more attacks in than your basic fighter. You can actually, eventually, it says once per turn. This means you can get up to 4 attacks in a single turn. 5 once you hit 20 levels. So you can get one turn. A samurai can hit you 5 times by the time he's level 20. Just think about that. And then you action surge. You get 3 more attacks after that. That's up to 20 attacks that a samurai can just slice and dice you in one round.
We should put out too, like samurai style swords in D&D are rare.
Yes,
because it's hard to find.
Yes,
people that can like fold the metal for them.
Like and then yep. I was like, does that say 8?
You got 3 minutes.
Rapid Strike. This is that's one I just did. And then last but not least is Strength before death. This one is obviously you're about to die. No. Before you go down, you get to make one great attack at advantage with all the bonuses, which means you can turn around and hit this guy up to 5 times again with all your bonuses and your advantage. So it's kind of like that whole only in death does duty end type thing. And I just absolutely love it. It's a perfect ending to the Samurai. What a great class. The fighter has evolved so much.
Oh, it has. I haven't even touched on the stuff in the other books.
Right.
There's like swashbucklers, which are pirates, and other fighting classes.
Oh, see, we should have probably done that with the fighter, but we can bring those out with the other ones. We'll work it out.
Yeah, those are Ventures in the High Seas has a lot more character classes to it. Like I said, but here's the thing with like Palladium, you have the samurai, it'd be easily to make a samurai style character in Palladium because they have the martial arts rules
right.
in Ninjas and Super Spies and Mystic China. There isn't hand-to-hand martial arts in here, so you could make someone like that.
Yeah.
You just, like I said, you need the right weapons, just pick the right skills.
Obviously, depending on what fighter you want to pick, strength is always going to be your first thing.
Yes.
Dexterity, if you want to be like more of that battle master, maybe you want to go more strength and dexterity. You want to be that defender, maybe you go strength and constitution.
For Palladium, it would be physical prowess, physical strength, and physical endurance.
You want to do that Eldritch Knight? Well, then obviously you want to do strength and intelligence, because he has the spells and stuff like that. So it's not just about who's the strongest out there anymore, and it's not just about who can do whatever out there. The fighter has evolved so much, and with that thought, we're going to bring you right to our sponsors real quick and be right back. All right.
Round 3.
4, 3, 2, 1. And welcome back. And we're going to wrap up this fighter's guide for you for both D&D 5th edition and Palladium. Like we said, Palladium has it's a little weirder setup. We're going to fine tune this a little bit better down the road. Yeah, we have all these archetypes.
It's on now.
We have all these archetypes.
Debate part 2.
So I'm going to break down the races real quick, and some of them that I feel like would be a really good choice for you if you decide that you actually want to go the fighter route. Obviously, the Arakara, which is those flying guys, they're nice because they have a bonus dexterity, but their ability to fly makes them a pretty cool fighter. The Asmira is very tempting for the Dragon Knights because they have the dark vision and they're already a charismatic race. Bugbears, they're strong.
That's like a classic
they're
monster
strong.
race right there.
Dragonborn, obviously fantastic to be a fighter. You get the strength bonuses, you get the breath weapon, so it's pretty much they're designed to be up close in someone's face. Dwarves, they've been fighters for forever, man. Let's be honest, Elves
Used to be. We should point out that's all they were at one point. I think they were restricted to fighter classes.
Yeah. Elves, their dexterity bonuses make them ideal for, like, say, maybe a battle master or something like that. Maybe even like the Cavalier. But I don't see them taking on like the champion role or the Eltric too much. Maybe an Eltric might be suited for them. The Furbolg, which is one of the newer races, has extra strength, has magic abilities, but has the abilities to actually make it a decent fighter. So it's not a bad way to go. The Genocide, the Constitution bonus, that's always nice for your fighters. The Giths, they're okay. It's like your basic vanilla fighter. Gnome, once again, unless they're Eltric, an Eltric Knight, I really wouldn't go with a Gnome. Goblin, same thing. You're giving up a lot, with your strengths and weaknesses. I mean, it's up to you. Like I said, it's your character to do. But this is your first time running a fighter. You want to use, like, say, Dragonborn, Goliaths, another one, tailor-made to be a melee monster, obviously. Half-elves, good choice because you get the bonuses of the human as well as the bonus dexterity of their half-elf counterparts. Half-orcs, fantastic for fighters and for paladins every single time. Halfling, once again, you're giving up your strengths for... those halflings are kind of like more of a rogue setup. Hobgoblins, same idea. Yeah, they're good fighters. I would say...
Not very smart, though, I don't
think. Right. And then, of course, last but not... the last ones I have. Human, they're vanilla. You get all the bonuses. Kobolds, about the same thing. Lizard folks, they make very good fighters. And the Lacanaths, I believe those are like the snake people. And they, with their increased strength and both dexterity, they would make a good fighter, too. Orcs, of course. The Paxies, which are the cat people. They're kind of more druid, I would say. And, of course, you got the tieflings. The resistances to the bonus spells resistances would be nice, but I think that low strength will probably hurt you in the end. But that's about... I mean, and of course, you have all the Warforged and all the other ones from the different races that are just coming out as well. Anything that essentially that you want to have strength, dexterity, those bonuses, that's going to help you be a better fighter.
That it? Okay.
That's it.
So in Palladium, they break their races down by humans and their allies.
Yep.
Because there's a history behind those races, as they call them allies, and then they break them down by the monster races. I'll rush through them real quick. Humans and elves, pretty much, they can be anything.
Yep.
You know, those are your vanilla characters, human elf. It doesn't really start to change till you get into the dwarf. So the dwarf cannot be a magic user in Palladium.
Yeah, I remember that because they don't touch onto
They're-
the plain old wars or whatever.
Yeah, because if in their mind, like the magic is it's not trustworthy. They have
Right.
a bad history with it, so they don't touch it. However, they can be clergy.
Yeah, actually,
So-
that's more of like a
Yeah.
healing.
Yeah, they can.
And
They
plus,
can
dwarves have always been known as clerics. I mean, heck,
Then there are gnomes, which are obviously smaller characters. As far as OCCs, they can do any magic, clergy, ranger, mercenary, soldier, thief, or assassin. So they can be fighters, but they cannot be like the bigger ones. They can't be like knights and stuff like
Right.
that. Then we get into the monster races, and I love these guys right here, the troglodytes.
troglodytes.
Troglodytes are a primitive race. Obviously, their OCCs are limited. They mercenary, soldier, thief, assassin, monk, or vagabond. They are like stronger because they are a subterranean race, so they would make a decent fighter.
Yep.
Not intelligent at all. You know, so you wouldn't get a lot of bonuses in that regard. You're not going to charm anybody at all. Not that fighters should. You charm with a battle axe to the face. Then there's ones we love, kobolds.
Kobolds.
Kobolds can be anything except a longbowman, knight, or paladin.
Yeah, 'cause the bow is bigger than them.
Exactly. And goblins. So yeah, goblins are pretty much what you would expect in any fantasy game. Their OCCs are limited to assassin, thief, mercenary, soldier, black priest, witch, vagabond, and the occasional psychic. They can also be a cobbler. They can make shoes. Hobgoblins. So we do have hobgoblins in Palladium, and as far as OCCs, they can be assassin, thief, mercenary, soldier, black priest, witch, and vagabond. But they tend towards men of arms OCCs, especially mercenary or thief, because they like the shiny things.
Yeah, they do.
They love the shiny gold. Now we have a classic, orcs. The orcs OCCs are limited to mercenary, soldier, assassin, thief, black priest, witch, and vagabond, even though they tend towards men of arm OCC. So they are really good fighters. They have a hatred of humans, so
Yes.
you know they're perfect.
Long wars.
That'd be an interesting if you have a group with an orc and a human. That would be an interesting little game to play.
Right.
And moving on, you can't have orcs without ogres.
Of course.
So we got the ogres now. I believe the ogres. They have no OCC restrictions. They can be anything.
There you go.
So there you go. They would make good fighters. Trolls, a race of vindictive, sadistic monsters who enjoy torturing their victims. Their OCCs are any except psychic, PCCs, and illusionist. They tend towards mercenary, fighter, thief, and assassin, witch, monk, or clergy. They're very strong. Seldom do they mess with magic.
Right.
Now, this is an interesting character. This is an exclusive to Palladium called Changelings. They're a race of shape changers. And as far as OCCs, they can be any OCC without limitation, so you can make a good fighter with them, with the addition of being able to change your appearance.
Your appearance.
Yeah, I believe Rob played one.
Mm-hmm.
Another interesting race, the Wolfen, which is a wolf. Basically, they're wolf-like, but they're bipedal. They stand up on their feet. They're humanoid wolf people. And their OCCs are pretty much any without restriction, but they lean towards men of arms with the occasional clergy. Very rare do they practice magic. So if you're going to be a wolfen that practices magic, you know, that could be
You better have a good storyline.
put into the story for that. Yeah, they're typically very tribal race. So, and coils. Coil is it is a what's the word I'm looking for? Enemy of the wolfen. They do not get along. They can be any OCC, but they lean towards men of arms, particularly thieves, assassins, and rangers. So if you're going to play one of those three classes, would be the one you want to do most. They also do vagabonds. Most coils are too aggressive and lazy to study magic or scholarly pursuits. So again, if you're going to do magic, you have to have a good reason for it.
Right.
And other than that, we get into demons and stuff, but those aren't really player characters.
No. So I'm gonna break down the skills real quick. We talked about skills and how as a fighter you get access to a lot more skills and defeats. Um, these are some of the skills available to you as a fighter: acrobatics, animal handling. Obviously, if you're a cavalier, animal handling is one of the ones that you want to pick. Acrobatics, athletics, two different things. This is the only strength-based skill. Everything else is dexterity, charisma, history, insight, intimidation, perception, and survival. For the feats, now if you guys have obviously played D&D, you know that the feats are a big thing. One of the things
We
you
love
get to
feats.
do is you get to choose how you want exactly, and this makes your character become your own in a sense. I remember Alex for his Dragonborn, he gave up ability scores to get 4 more feats, and that helped him out a lot. Alert.
That's like, I don't think we touched on enough of this. So each of these have certain bonuses for certain skills.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, just like you said, a lot of people don't realize that you set this up and those extra attacks and making it yourself, making your character yourself is a whole. That's part of the fun.
Oh, absolutely.
That's part of the fun. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. So, like, the bonuses give you, obviously, if you pick these certain skills, these are your extra bonuses for your character class. But ultimately, you got the freedom to pick and choose how you want to mold that character. In
Right.
that
If
direction.
you want, like I said before, you want to make a defender, then you go more towards that. That heavy armor mastery, the shield mastery, and stuff like that. I'm going to run down some feats. Now, keep in mind, these aren't all the feats out there because right now, 5th edition, I believe, has up to 300 or something feet. But these are feats that are just going to help the fighter class itself. Alert, like I said, you don't get caught flat-footed. Charge, you can't just declare charges anymore. You have to have the feat to be able to charge now. It's a whole other setup. Crossbow expert, just like it sounds, you become proficient in the crossbow. Defensive duelist, two-handed defensive. You use the two-handed weapon to better your AC and the people around you. Just the opposite, dual wielder. You use the two-handed weapon to do more attacks. Dungeon delver. We've talked about this as well. This is a guy who's just been around so many dungeons that uses the wisdom to be able to walk around the dungeon with no questions asked, no issues. Rolls the dice. The DM gives him hints. Durable, pretty much same idea. You can pretty much take take a bulk of the damage, take half damage here. Elemental Adept. This is great for the Eldritch Knight because you want to be able to use the elements. Grappler, you have athletics. You can do things like pin, give combat advantage, grant all these other things. Great weapon master, heavy armor master, inspiring leader. This is going to be good for the paladin. This is going to be good for that the purple dragon knight there. Lucky, we joked about this. There's only a few people I think that actually helps. Mage Slayer. I just kind of threw that in there because if you're in a party that deals with a lot of mages, maybe this is an option that you want to pick up. Like I said, and this is one of those things that you can mold your character according to not only just yourself, but maybe what you're going through in the campaign. Maybe your DM just starts throwing a shit ton of mages at you, and you're like, you know what? I'm getting that feat mage killer just to help me with this, Magic Initiate. Once again, it's helped the Eldritch Glass, who already is built for spell casting. Martial Adept, the Battle Master Fighter, your champion. These are just going to give you your extra attacks, extra maneuverabilities. Medium Armor Master, mobile, mounted combat for the Cavalier. Observant, this is that one where you can literally see your opponent across the battlefield and gain advantages just by watching. Polearm Master, just like it says. Resilient, just like it says. Ritual Caster, Savage Attacker, Sentinel, Sharpshooter, Shield Master, Skilled, Skulker, Spell Sniper, once again for the Eldritch Knight, Tavern Brawler, Tough, and Warcaster. We talked about the Warcaster. That was the big one where if you want to attack a melee and then turn around and hit him with Fireball or hit him with like Lightning Blast or Magic Missile, something like that, that gets you the ability. Tough, that's a big one too that a lot of people don't look at. If your Constitution starts off low, like 13, 14, you take Tough and instantly adds 2 to that. So now you're looking at a 16, you're looking at a 15. It's doable now as opposed to what it was before. These, like I said, these are just feats that'll help the fighter become better. They're not the end-all, be-all, and by any stretch of the imagination, they're not the one thing that's going to make you...
The end-all, be-all is whatever you choose.
Exactly.
As a player.
As what makes you and your fighting style is what makes this character
Right.
yours.
And ultimately, whatever's going to be the most fun for you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, don't pick a bunch of stuff that you think is not going to be fun.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know.
Yes, exactly. Break down real quick. Obviously, the things that you want to go through. You want the strength. You want the intelligence. If you're taking that, just be mindful of the choice that you're making ahead of time. If you want a martial fighter, if you want the blade master or the battle master, it's called. You want to be more strength and dexterity. If you want to go with the Eldritch Knight, you want the strength because you want to be hitting, but you also want the intelligence because you want your spells to have some juice there too. You know what I'm saying? And real quick, we'll go down the Eldritch spells real fast. Your cantrips, and these are the ones that can go off all the time. I really like the cantrip idea. These are the ones that you don't have to study the night before and blah, 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 blah. They just go off. They're natural to you, you know. Mm-hmm. Blade Ward, Blooming Blade, Frostbite, Green Flame Blade, Sword Burst, and Toll of the Dead. This one is 60-foot range. Damage is measured D12s, and since it's necrotic damage, almost nothing will resist it. That's nasty. That's a cantrip, dude. That's a cantrip for crying out loud. First level spell. Absorb Elements, Burning Hands, Earth Tremor, Magic Armor, Magic Missile, Find Familiar, Protection from Evil Good, Shield, Snare, Thunder Wave, Witch Bolt. Second level spells. Agonar's Scorcher, Enlarge Reduce, Magic Weapon, Earth Grasp, Misty Step, Scorching Ray, See Invisibility, Shadow Blade, Shatter, Snowball Storm, Warding Evil. Third level spells. Counterspell. I can never tell you the importance of Counterspell and Dispel. If you don't have this on your team and you're facing wizards, you are just asking for trouble. Fireball, Flame Arrows, Fly, Haste, Tiny Hut, Lightning Bolt, Magic Circle, Minute Meteors, Protection from Enemy, Thunderstep, Wall of Sand, Wall of Water, last but not least, fourth level spells, Banishment, Fire Shield, Greater Invisibility, Ice Storm, Private Sanction, Resilient Spear, Polymorph, Stone Skin, Stone Spear, Wall of Fire, Lacretic Spear, and Sickening Radiance. Now these are, like I said, I really like that they brought back this, what we called the Sword Mage from fourth edition. I'm really glad
it was an Eberron class.
Yes, exactly.
So, yeah.
Exactly. And this is the same idea with this. This is the Eldritch Knight, and they incorporate both the martial fighting style and the magic fighting style. One of the more exciting classes that the fighters come out with a little bit. We broke down all the ones. Cavalier, I mean, like I said, it's one of those ones where it really depends on the campaign. You know what I'm saying? So it's really rough. If you really want to have fun with a fighter class in the D&D 5th edition, I suggest the Eldritch Knight. If you like to play with fire and you like to play with spells, that's one way to go. Or go with that Battle Master because he is just the end-all, be-all of fighters. You can have so many proficiencies, so many different ways to go. You can literally adapt your fighting style to the fight that's going on at the hand. You have a whole bunch of fighters out there, sword and board. You got a whole bunch of wizards out there, go for that damage and pull out that two-handed sword. You got the rogues out there, pull out the multi-weapons and go to town on it. And last but not least, I really can't shout down the Purple Dragon Knight. I love the fact that they brought back the Warlord feel. The Warlord isn't completely back, and there's a reason why, because of those of you who played 4th edition, you knew. The Warlord was OP. It was in the right hands with the right equipment and doing it the right setup. You could literally re-roll so many times with the right Warlord that they had to redo this character.
That was my problem with a lot of 3rd edition. That, like, certain classes became OP, and it was like, why would I bother playing this class when that class is...
And why would you, exactly?
Because then you're just playing a game with, like, you have an encounter, it's like, all right, let's just sit back and let him take care of it.
Yeah, and you do get like that sometimes, because you're like, oh, what am I going to do, man? It's not like I can hit this thing.
Not to say we haven't said send the Minotaur in a few times,
absolutely.
But he's not OP, though.
No, exactly.
He's well-rounded.
He is well-rounded.
He's strong, but he's well-rounded,
yes.
And the other character classes give great support to a class like that. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. And of course, all the weapons that come with it, we gave you guys all the breakdowns for that. If you guys have any questions, anything below that, feel free to drop those comments below. We're more than happy to answer those questions. If you want me to go further onto some of these, I'll be more than happy to do like a side video for one of these classes if you would, whatever it may be. Like I said, keep in mind this is just your basic starter guide to the fighter 5th edition D&D and Palladium setup. Like we said, they
Yeah.
have the man of arms set up. So
You can tell that they're very different too.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
with Palladium, Men of Arms is just that, arms. There's not a lot of magic involved with the Men of Arms classes. If there
and even the
is
paladin
magic,
didn't have spells.
Not
you
really,
had that
no.
death thing for the demons.
which is just
it's an ability,
it's just an energy channel through their
right?
their religion.
Right.
And when you start getting into fighter classes with magic, they have them listed
They
under
do have
magic
them under
users,
lists, right.
which we'll probably do next week.
We'll be breaking
And,
into, yep.
yeah, and we'll do magic because Palladium I think has a lot of fun with the magic because
Yes.
we're talking symbols and stuff like that. It's great.
Yeah. So let us know what you guys think. Did you like the reviews of the fighter? We have plenty more to come. Obviously, we're going to break down the rogue. We're going to break down the paladin. We're going to figure out how the Palladium system is going to work that around because with D&D paladin, there is 6 or 7 arch vaults
Yep.
that you can go down. So we have the rogue. We have different sorcerers. We have the summoner. We have the cleric. We have a lot of things coming up. If you guys had fun with this, please go ahead and drop that like, drop that comment. Let us know what you think about it. And as always, like we said at the beginning,
Subscribe.
Please
Click
subscribe.
the bell.
you
Share
get
the
it.
show.
And like I said at midnight, ding, goes right off. And if you want to wake up and just hit that, listen and go back to sleep, we'd appreciate that.
And don't forget to visit www.basementquest.com. That's pretty much the hub where you can find out anything you want.
Yeah, and then all the affiliate links there. You want to get a new set of dice, you know where to go from there. You want to get that table that we talked about a gazillion times before, you go there, you mention us, you get $50
Basement
off
Quest
of it right
50,
off.
you get $50 off.
Can't beat that. And the styles that are there, everything. There's blogs going up there all the time. Make sure that you guys, if you have access to an iTunes store, give us those reviews. We just found iTunes reviews, and also now
Stitcher.
You can leave reviews too. So that's big. Reviews. Just like us, love us, share us, and hit that bell and hit that subscribe button. And we're going to be here every single week for you guys for something new and fantastic.
And we got something special planned, which we will talk about soon.
Yes, we have some guests coming, and it's going to be great.
Ooh, pretty excited.
All right, guys. I hope you're having a great time today on this fine Saturday. And if you're not gaming, why not? It's a perfect time to do it.
Hey, why aren't we gaming?
All right? We're going to go do that.
All right,
Guys, have
bye.
a great weekend.